You know, the internet was supposed to connect everyone, right? To turn the whole world into this one big global village. But what if you show up to that village and you can't understand a single word anyone's saying? Well, for billions of people, that's their reality online every single day. So today, we're going to talk about a massive effort to tear down what might be the biggest wall on the internet: language. Okay, let's just start with one number: 63.7%. Any guesses what that is? Because this isn't just some random statistic. Nope, this number, it's the key to understanding this huge, huge imbalance that's right at the very heart of our digital lives. That's right. That number means that almost two-thirds of the entire internet is in English. But here's the kicker. Only about a quarter of all internet users actually speak it. I mean, just think about that for a second. That one fact creates this massive digital divide, basically locking billions of people out of most of the world's knowledge, shopping, you name it, everything that happens online. So this imbalance has basically split the world's languages into two camps. On one side, you've got what we call high-resource languages. Think English, French, Russian, the ones with literal mountains of digital text for AI to train on. But on the other side, well, that's pretty much everyone else. These are the low-resource languages, and to the AI that runs so much of our world, they're practically invisible. All right, so here's the plan for today. First, we're going to dig into this internet language divide a little more. Then, we'll get into why translation is so incredibly important. After that, we'll look at this amazing project called No Language Left Behind and see how they're trying to build a universal translator. And finally, we'll wrap up by thinking about what all this means for the future of language. Okay, first up, the internet's language divide. I mean, it's one thing to say English is dominant online, but it's another thing entirely to actually see what that looks like. And wow, just look at that drop-off. English is up there at a whopping 63.7%. And the next one down, Russian, at less than 7%. That's not a gradual slope, that is a straight-up cliff. It just goes to show, for most people on this planet, the internet wasn't built for them. It wasn't built in their language. Okay, so that's the what of the problem. Now let's talk about the why. Why does this matter so much? Because this isn't just about convenience, not by a long shot. This is about people's lives. This quote from an Igbo speaker just nails it. They say, better translation would let more people create cultural knowledge in their own language. See, it's not just about being able to read stuff from other places. It's about being able to create stuff for your own community. It's about writing your own history, building your own corner of the internet, and making sure your culture doesn't just get erased by the digital tide. And then you've got the really immediate life and death stakes. This Tigrinya speaker puts it perfectly. Language can be a huge barrier to education and getting a job. Just imagine for a second. Imagine you couldn't find reliable health information during a crisis, or you couldn't apply for a job that could change your family's life, all because you don't speak the right language. We're talking about basic survival and the ability to build a better life. So you might be sitting there thinking, hang on, don't we have Google Translate? And yeah, we do. But the thing is, for most of the world's languages, they're just not very good. In fact, they can be so bad that it's actually faster to translate something from scratch than to try and fix all the AI's mistakes. And it gets worse. Sometimes these tools spit out really offensive or toxic stuff, which completely breaks the trust of the people they're supposed to be helping. All right, so you've got this huge, messy, complicated problem. So what do? Well, a team of researchers decided to take on this massive challenge with a project that's just as ambitious as it sounds. They called it No Language Left Behind. And their mission was, honestly, audacious. The goal? Build one single AI model that can translate between over 200 different languages. And here's the really important part. They weren't trying to make English to Spanish translations a tiny bit better. No. The whole point was to focus on all those languages that have been left behind for decades, especially languages across Africa and Asia. So the big question is, how'd they do? Well, this number, 40%, it kind of says it all. They more than doubled the number of languages that any previous model could handle. And on top of that, their model was 40% better. This wasn't just a small step forward. This was a massive leap. And here's the best part. They didn't just build this amazing thing and then lock it up. No, a huge part of the project was making everything open source. They released their tools for everyone to use. Tools like NLLB-200, which is basically a universal test for grading how good a translation is. and Laser 3, which is kind of like a super smart search engine for finding translated sentences anywhere on the web. The whole idea was to give the entire research community the tools to keep pushing this forward. Okay, so now for the really fascinating part. How in the world did they actually build this thing? I mean, how do you create a translator for 200 languages when, for most of them, you have practically zero data to work with? Well, this diagram shows the first piece of the puzzle. It's a process called bytext mining. You can think of it like a giant automated treasure hunt across the entire internet. See, the AI needs examples of sentences that have been translated from one language to another to learn. But for a language like, say, Luganda, those examples are super rare. So what they built was a system that could automatically scour the web and dig up these little pairs of translated sentences. It's like finding thousands of tiny digital Rosetta Stones scattered all over the place. But that leads to a huge problem, right? A real chicken and egg situation. To find translated sentences, you first have to know what language the text is even in. So how do you build an AI that can correctly identify hundreds of different languages, especially when a lot of them look really, really similar? And yeah, that turned out to be a monster of a problem on its own. They basically hit three big roadblocks. First, domain mismatch. That's when an AI trained on something super formal, like the Bible, gets completely lost trying to read a casual tweet. Then there's class imbalance, which is just that there's so much English out there that it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack for the other languages. And finally, just telling apart really similar languages can be almost impossible for a machine. So their solution was brilliant. It was a team-up between AI and actual human experts. They built this tool that basically let the linguists look under the hood of the AI to see why it was getting confused. You can see how it highlights the specific words the AI used to make its guess. This meant the human experts could see the patterns and the mistakes and then give the AI better, smarter data to help it learn. All right, so they pulled it off. They overcame these insane technical challenges and built this incredibly powerful tool. But that brings us to the biggest question of all, and maybe the most important one. What does a world with a universal translator actually look like? The researchers themselves say this technology has two faces. It's looking in two directions at once. On the one hand, you have all these amazing potential benefits, right? More access to education, to media, preserving cultures that are at risk. But on the other hand, there's a dark side. The exact same tool could be used to target people with misinformation, scams, or even be used for government surveillance. The risks are very, very real. And this is maybe the most important takeaway. The people who built this are crystal clear. Technology is not a magic fix. You can't solve a problem this big with just an algorithm. It's going to take a collective effort. We're talking about researchers collaborating, governments making policy changes, and everyone working to fix the root problems, like making sure people can actually get online in the first place. And that's really what it all comes down to, isn't it? Trying to build a truly global internet for everyone. That's not just a technical puzzle. It's one of the defining social and cultural challenges of our time. So that leaves us with this one big final question. We're creating technology that can connect us in ways that were science fiction just a few years ago. But is that technology going to help us preserve the incredible diversity of human culture? Or will it end up creating new walls, new divides? The honest answer is, we don't know yet. The story is still being written.